So I remember climbing up this tree, looking down at those rocks, taking a deep breath, and just starting to lean forward to pitch myself head first. But then all of a sudden, I just suddenly saw clearer than I've ever seen anything in my entire life. Someday, I was going to meet these people. And even better, I might even get to work with them someday.
ADHD Rewired, episode number 36. This is the show designed to help those of us who have really good intentions and a slightly wandering attention. Whether you have ADHD and you want to learn more about it, or you are looking for ways to organize your time, your things, or the many details of life so you can get more done, this show is for you. My name is Eric Tivers. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, coach, and consultant. We know that starting can be the hardest part, so let's get started. But first, let me thank our sponsor.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. Go to audibletrial.com/ADHD Rewired. Check show notes for link.
ADHD Rewired community, I am here with Pat with a silent E, and there are two T's, Rosebank. And I'm already laughing at my own jokes. Oh, man, this is a rough start. She had her aha moment 4 years ago when she saw a newspaper article in which one of her childhood comedy heroes talked about his own aha moment. She lives in Toronto, Canada, where she's a voice artist, writer, costume designer, comedy historian. Does that mean you tell old jokes? Real life.
No, I just know like the history behind it, the stories.
She's a real life Victoria, which I have no idea what that means. And she's now an ADHD coach in training, and she could be seen or heard in several totally ADD videos. Pat, welcome to ADHD Rewired.
Thank you.
And I had the pleasure of meeting you at last year's ADA conference. Mm-hmm. And I think we attended a couple of workshops that were in the same workshops. And you were just a really nice person and definitely very sparkly.
Thank you. I try.
So tell me from what I maybe didn't mention or say about your intro, what should we know about you? Who are you? What do you do? Why should we care?
I'll ignore the last one. No, I've just always felt really different. I love bright colors, sparkly things, feathers. Maybe it goes back to when I was a baby. Even before I was born, my mom would watch the Carol Burnett show. And when I was born, I couldn't even sit up by myself. And she told me on her lap, and we'd watch Carol Burnett. So those Bob Mackie costumes with the feathers, the sequins, the silliness, I think it stuck. So I think that's where it all came from with the love of sparkles and stuff. Although, considering I have ADHD, maybe that's part of it too.
You like shiny things.
Yeah, I can walk into a room with a shag rug, and if there is one teeny tiny little rhinestone or sequin somewhere in that room, I will instantly spot it. But if you want to hide something from me, stick it right under my nose. I'll completely miss it.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yes.
It's that idea of, when you're looking for your cell phone and yes, it happens to be in your hand, or you're talking to somebody looking for your cell phone, you say, I can't find my cell phone. Yes.
Well, also, when you freak out and you're panicking, the fight or flight mode kicks in, mm-hmm. You lose your peripheral vision. It just zooms to the route of escape. So when you're freaking out like that, you make it even harder to find something. And we have enough trouble when we're stressed trying to function. If we're being scrutinized or watched or judged, we turn into dribbling idiots, or at least I do. This can be fun at customs when you're trying to cross the border. Oh, yeah.
Well, and it's funny, too, because, we were talking before I hit record about how, in between client sessions, I will always try to give myself like 15 minutes in between sessions. And then I don't like to go right in from a client session into an interview. And I had to just, the way my schedule worked this morning is I did. And and as we're doing this pre-talk, that's what I was doing. I was the bubbling idiot. I was like, we're going to do, hold on, what? So yeah, it's understanding how stress and our environment impacts us. So I want to talk to you maybe first about, let's see, should we start with the fun stuff or should we start with the serious stuff?
Let's start with the serious stuff, and then the fun stuff is dessert.
Okay. Can we get a teaser of dessert?
Yeah, love. What kind of thing do you want to know?
Perfect.
Yeah, like sort of, the accents and stuff like that. And I've got one as well that's a perfectly evil thing to do to a telemarketer.
We will get into that towards the latter part of the show. And I asked Pat if she would actually help me with some of my accents because I like to try, but they're often awful because they're blends of who knows what. So
they're Canadian, right?
But at least I'm very polite.
Yeah. You bump into a hat rack and say, "Excuse me."
So something that I was really struck by you and a lot of people that I talked to, just the genuineness of your story. And, as a kid, you've experienced a lot of difficulties, getting bullied, really trying to figure out who you are. And you shared with me that when you were, I think it was 10 years old, that you were close to taking your own life.
I was literally seconds away from it. I went to a very crummy school. This school taught to the lowest common denominator, and there it was very low. Problem was, my mom had been a teacher before I was born. She started teaching me and then my brother how to read pretty much from the time she brought us home from the hospital. So, by the time we were 3 years old, we were reading it at like a grade 9 level. Not just reading, but comprehending, questioning, and all that. Plus, Mom always dressed us really nicely to go to school. I was dressed like a little princess in a school where torn jeans and T-shirts with rude words on them are pretty much a uniform.
So you stood out a little bit.
Yeah. Kindergarten, I'd just go in the afternoon, but Mom arranged. So Tuesday and Thursday mornings, I'd attend grade 1 classes. Grade 1, 2, and 3, I won the Primary General Proficiency Award, which means best all round. So I get straight A's in everything, not even trying. I'd finish the work so fast in class, I'd flip over the ditto sheet, those great purple vinegar smelling ditto sheets, and I'd draw, which is probably how I got into costume designing because I was always drawing princesses and fancy ball gowns and things like that. Now, of course, when you're a really bright kid, dressed nicely, etc., with all kinds of world travel experience that you want to talk about, you want to share this stuff because it's so interesting. The dumb kids don't like that, and they let it be known that they don't like that. And eventually the teachers just get tired of you telling them that the kids are being monsters to you. Plus I skipped a grade, which didn't help much. Wow. So suddenly I'm the youngest kid in the class. And this kind of blew Mom's plans because Mom had been primary teacher, even special ed teacher before I was born. So she knew there's a big difference between a 5-year-old kid born in January and a 5-year-old kid born late in the year. So she made sure my brother was January and I was February. So we'd be the oldest kids in the class. But then I skipped a grade. There goes that plan.
And that's as a quick thing, not to gloss over that, even though it's not the point of the story. For parents, if you're at that point where you're trying to, you're making a decision, wait if you can. Most of the time it's worth it because especially if your kids do have ADHD, they are more immature. So give them that chance to kind of catch up. You don't want your kid to be the youngest, especially younger kids. It's a big difference.
Well, it is the 30% rule generally where we're socio-emotionally about 30% younger. Some of it's even more than that. But, back to the story. I get straight A's in everything, but D's and E's in penmanship. I now know it's because my hand can't keep up with my brain. It's that simple. I know a lot of ADDers have terrible penmanship and higher IQs. It's not how smart you are. It's how you can use it, what you do with it, the situation. So things got worse and worse at this school. And, I'd try and pretend to be sick so Mom would keep me home from school. I'd beg her to come and walk through the schoolyard with me. Of course, none of this really worked. Then I found out much later. I'd always wondered what it was like to sleepwalk. And then I find out, what finally got my parents to take me to a child psychologist, an excellent child psychologist, Dr. Hawk, he's deceased now, but even when he was retired, like into his 90s, he was still seeing kids. Wow. It was remarkable. One what finally got my parents to take me to see him was, Mom said to me, "Oh, don't you remember you were walking through the halls crying at night? I thought you'd fall down the stairs." No memory of this. I was sleepwalking.
Really? How old did you say you were?
Well, I mean, the picking on and stuff like that would have started, like grade 2, grade 3.
Okay.
The kids would try to get me to talk, to say something intelligent and big words and stuff so they could laugh at me. They'd go out of their way to be rotten. Because, hey, it's a freak. And also the freak reacts big. That's another thing. Generally, a lot of us we're hypersensitive people. So we experience stimuli much stronger, which means our reaction is going to be much stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So
I often use the when I'm working with kids in my practice, we'll use the expression, our goal is you can still feel it big, but how do we show it small? Because usually when we have a small problem, but we have a big reaction to it, now we just create usually a bigger problem than the original problem. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
also,
that emotional regulation. Them. Oh yeah,
But
kids are like here's the way I look at it. Kids are like natural scientists, and they like to do these experiments with human beings, so they have no like ethical concerns, but they're doing it out of their curiosity, I think, in some ways, not just because they're like nasty kids, even though the behaviors are pretty nasty. It's when they see some
ones were nasty, they just this is how they get their jollies.
Yeah,
it was a game with them.
And it becomes interesting to them. They're like, huh, that's odd, that's interesting. And then it's, this is predictable, and today's kind of boring, so here's what we're going to do.
And the teachers aren't going to do anything about
it. Right.
So, this went on, and, I even experienced teachers who were afraid of me because I was so smart. They were afraid I would point out a mistake they made. This was not a good school. Finally, I was in grade 6, and I had one teacher, and she was so threatened by me. And one day, kid in front of me turned around after the teacher had said, "Look, I want you to be quiet." Because I was always a little angel in school. I was afraid to act up. At home I was a holy terror, situational. But at school, just the complete timid little angel. And this kid in front of me turned around and was talking to me, and I just mouthed. Teacher pounced, gave me the first detention in lines of my entire life. And this was just like end of the friggin' world.
So you guys couldn't see, since we can see each other on Skype. The little symbol when you take your finger and you kind of swirl it as the signal of turn around.
Yeah.
It's just also mouthing, which doesn't work really well on audio.
Exactly. But she, so this teacher pounced. Like, imagine you have never ever had detention lines in your life, unless it was a class detention, which is a really horrible, horrible means of discipline. But, to get hit with this, it was, like this was the end of the world. And then to make it even worse, the whole class burst out laughing because the angel finally got nailed. And going home on the school bus, one of my dear classmates, Susan Milne, who was a bus patroller, which means she could walk the aisles of the bus, she stood right next to my seat and said, "Hey, Patty, have you finished your lines yet?"
What does that mean? The detention lines. What is that?
Lines, where you've got to write out. Well, in this case, it was dictionary work. Writing out the dictionary definitions of chatterbox, self-control.
Oh my gosh.
Silence. Yes, things like that. Completely humiliating, right?
That's horrifying.
Yeah. So, write it out 10 times each. So I remember, the whole bus is laughing. I wanted to die. So I got home. Walked to, we had an outdoor enclosure for our dogs, and there were some big tall trees with great big boulders underneath them. So I remember climbing up this tree, and I remember looking down at those rocks and just taking a deep breath and just starting to lean forward to pitch myself head first and smash my brains out on those rocks. But then all of a sudden, now, I had just been discovering comedy on CBC Radio and, on SCTV, and I really liked it. But I just suddenly saw clearer than I've ever seen anything in my entire life that someday I was going to meet these people. And even better, I might even get to work with them someday. And it would just be so much fun. There is no possible way that I could miss out on this. Just no way. I do not remember climbing down from the tree. I do not remember walking to the front door of the house. Next thing I knew, I was standing at the front door of the house. And when I told my parents about the day, I did not tell them about the tree or anything. I told them about what had happened. I said, look, will you talk to the teacher because this is wrong? My parents actually made me do the lines. They did not want to rock the boat. Most parents don't want to rock the boat. They don't want their kid labeled, don't want to be parents who are seen as troublemakers. But, shortly after that, Mom took me to see Dr. Hawk. And suddenly stuff was happening. Mom was going all over the school district, checking out schools, just as she'd done when she'd been looking for a nursery school for me when I was a baby. It was like trying to find the best one. And then the new principal at the Crummy School said, look, I just came from this school, Southwood Park in Ajax. Now, you'll have to drive her there and back each day, but this school is built on an open concept, which is really cool. It's not anymore. It was changed, but back then it was open concept. So you'd have a big space and you'd have one class at one end, one class at the other end. And the hallway just ran around the whole perimeter of the building. So it was really interesting. But it was a dream of a school. They nurtured, as soon as I started there, and I was only there the last term of grade 6 because it only went as high as grade 6. Mm-hmm. But the first day they assigned a kid just to watch out for me, like my buddy. And that day there was one boy, and he was picking on me at lunchtime. He actually spat on my coat, and I was just sitting there crying. Well, my buddy and a couple of other kids saw this. I didn't want to complain about it because I just thought, they're not going to do anything. It's the same as before. These kids took me to the principal's office. They cleaned me up. They took me to the principal's office. They said, this is what happened. The poor kid who had been obnoxious to me, he got called down to the office 3 or 4 times that afternoon. His parents got called into the school. I think he got suspended. Looking back on it now, I see what happened. There's a Charlie Brown cartoon where Charlie Brown is sitting at the principal's office, and one of the kids says, what did you do? How come you're here? And he said, well, I saw the little red-haired girl, and I wanted to talk to her so much. She was so pretty, but I couldn't think of what to say, so I hit her. And now I get it, this poor kid. But shortly after I started at that school, I was only there for the one term, but almost immediately they put me into a special enriched program where we'd get bused to another school, just a handful of us, to learn about Canadian culture and heritage. And this was in addition to our regular school stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, going on, they enlarged another school in the neighborhood to take all of us grade 7 and 8 kids. And over there at this other school, Lord Durham, they had what were then called TMR classes, trainable mentally retarded. Mm. So we had kids with Down syndrome and developmental difficulties. And I would play with them at lunchtime. I wouldn't really play with the other kids. I'd sit and draw pictures and tell stories to them, and they'd color the pictures. And, if I was finished work early in class, I'd go and help do the bulletin boards outside their classrooms. And then we had school talent nights, and I would be doing so many things in them. There was one year where it was just a blur because I was either on stage doing something, in the dress room changing to do something, or running back and forth between them.
Pat, so I want to kind of pause you there because I'm just thinking about, so you had this truly a traumatic experience at this first school. Mm-hmm. You were able to find this other school, and on this first day, you had this moment that you were just thinking, here we go again. Mm-hmm. This is how life's going to be. Mm-hmm. And you had these kids who were basically assigned to look out for you and to really, be almost a protector in a lot of ways. Yep. And that almost seems like that had such a pivotal role in your life.
Well, just going to this other school where, it's fantastic that this kid is so smart and wants to share so much. These teachers aren't threatened by it. These teachers think this is fantastic. We love this kid. We want to talk to this kid.
Well, and one of the things that I'm kind of pulling from this, for our listeners too, is, just that the power of having a mentor and the power of having just someone that shows you that that someone cares about you. And so think about, whether it's a work environment or a school environment, how much effort does it take to assign somebody to look out for the new person, and how much of a positive impact that can actually have on the life of somebody else. And it did. I just think it's a really powerful, I think, to kind of consider and to really take stock of, wow, like that really could have changed everything. Because if it weren't for those kids that were there to look out for you, things could have been very, very different.
Yeah. And the principal and the teachers made it very clear, if there's any problems, do not hesitate to talk to us. We want to be here for you. You matter.
And I think one of the things that, unfortunately, I think we're finally starting to figure this out. People used to be taught, and kids used to be taught, if you see someone else getting picked on, it's not your business, stay out of it.
Yeah, ignore it. And even if you are being picked on, just ignore them.
Right, and that doesn't work. It doesn't. And the research is showing that too, that it doesn't work. It's first of all, the victims of bullying are not just the kids who are the direct targets. It's also the kids that are around them, because they're uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable when you see somebody else getting bullied. So kids need to be taught what to do and need to be empowered to stand up to kids who are bullies. Because if they're not, they don't want to be seen as causing trouble. But if they're told that it's expected that you stand up for someone who's getting bullied, it can change everything. It can truly change and save lives.
Also, if they see nothing's being done, they lose the empathy. It's like you watch violent films and things and you lose the empathy. You're not as shocked by this.
It's true.
And you should be.
I mean, just the thought of, like, in what world is it okay for someone to spit on another kid, or another person? It's just, it's horrifying.
Well, I think it was because I was trying to ignore him. And he got my attention. Yes, he did. Just like Charlie Brown hitting the little red-haired girl, although I was blonde at the time. And also as the comedy goes, I mean,
take us there.
I would listen to, there was a show that was on CBC radio, and since then it moved to TV, and now it's just once a year. But it was Air Farce, the Royal Canadian Air Farce. And I'd go to their tapings. Seeing it being done, these people standing at microphones with the scripts in hands, and it's just them and the sound effects. And it was so cool to see what you can do just with the voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was also Frantic Times, and Rick Green was one of the Frantics. And
for those of you who don't know, Rick Green is one of the people from ADD and loving it. His website, Totally ADD. So he's out there in the ADD land of people who are really working to make a difference in the lives of people with ADHD. What I like about Rick is that and what they do there is how they blend both humor and actual good information. So it's not just making light of stuff; it's making a light of stuff, but with also giving good information. Because, and I try to do that a bit on this show too, where it's stuff is serious, but let's not take it so seriously.
Yes. Yeah, you have to be able to laugh at it. If not in the moment, then later. Sometimes very much later. But, as an example of this, and just the fact that going to the comedy tapings and that, in my formative years, it kind of becomes ingrained. You can always try and see the humorous side of something or the humorous side of a character or whatever. A few years back, my dad took me and my brother to Las Vegas. Mom wasn't interested. She stayed home. And while I was there, I was on one of the last episodes of Let's Make a Deal to be shot there. And I was dressed like Carmen Miranda. I got a close-up at the top of the show. I won $100 in a quickie deal, which didn't make it to air. The quickie deal was they were asking all kinds of people dressed as doctors and nurses, what is the proper name for a blood pressure device that the doctor uses? None of them knew. Finally, they couldn't ignore this Carmen Miranda going, me. It's a sphygmomanometer.
Bless you.
Yes, when I am bored, I will read whatever's at hand. So sitting in the doctor's office, you see the thing on the wall and you think, oh, sphygmomanometer. Cool, I'll remember that sphygmomanometer. And you say it a few times, never knowing it would win me $100. But anyway, after this taping, I had to stay late and do paperwork because there's reams of paperwork for like a lousy $100, please. But afterwards, I finally got to go to the bathroom and change the costume. and somehow or other, something followed me out. So I spent about half an hour walking along the Vegas Strip, high noon, packed with people, bright sunshine, before a female security guard, looking very, very embarrassed, came out of a storefront and pointed out that I had been trailing 9 feet of toilet paper out the back of my pants the whole time. And she said, people had been videoing it and laughing, and nobody had said anything. And for 1 second, I thought, oh my God, only I would do this. And I just started laughing my head off because it was so hilarious. I would have liked to have seen me doing that because it was so funny. The poor security guard looked at me like I'd escaped from somewhere. He was like, took the toilet paper out and just chucked it in the garbage and went off laughing like crazy. And she just looked really, really worried and went back inside. But the person I was before the epiphany would have just been so mortified. Like, I've had to go somewhere and go to pieces. But this was just, to this day, I will still check YouTube looking for Vegas Strip idiot toilet paper. And I've never seen it. And I want to because it is so damn funny. I want to see it. I want to laugh.
One day. I mean, that the power of laughing at yourself. I mean, it really is powerful. I mean, I think I was telling you last week I did a webinar. And so, and I've done a handful of webinars, and I get distracted by the chat part of it. So I make it so I can't see it. So I'm just looking at my slides. And then so the setup for this webinar was half an hour is kind of the presentation, and then half an hour is going to be Q&A. So as I finish the presentation part, I switch the screen mode, and then everyone is saying in the chat room, "We can't see your slides." Oh no, he doesn't know that we can't see his slides. And so as soon as I saw that, I was laughing because it's like, oh man,
you got a 1 minute delay, right?
Yep.
So it would have been a whole minute. People like, I can't see.
And then I'm like, and I had one of my friends was actually trying to text me and message me, and of course and I didn't want to be distracted by anything, so I put all of those things that could have notified me. That little voice that you hear in your mind that says, I should probably have somebody kind of do this, be an admin with me so they can let me know this. I gotta learn to listen. I mean, but it was funny. And so I kind of made light of it. And, one of the things that I really, emphasize with, on the podcast and in this coaching group and with the clients that I work with is to embrace imperfection. And because, perfect sucks. Because perfect doesn't get us to show others what we're actually capable of. So it's the good enough is great. And it's the being able to put yourself out there and say, I tried, and whoops, like here's what I'm going to learn from this experience. Yep. And that's what's so valuable. And so what I actually did, and I'll have on my website until the end of the month, and I don't even know if it will be on there when this airs. But I have the full video of the presentation side by side. I uploaded the slides that you'll have to, switch through on your own. But when I was like, I was nervous, like, oh man, I hope I wasn't like picking my nose or anything, because I didn't think that anyone could see me. And I had, and when I was talking to my friend Deb Rowley afterwards, who's an ADHD coach in Madison, and she was telling me that she was just like screaming at the computer because she wanted me to pick my glasses up.
Oh yeah, it's like they're going down.
Right, because I didn't think that I had to be mindful of. I was slouching out. It's.
Oh yeah, and if you move too much, that takes up more bandwidth. So you have to practice sitting still.
Is that true?
Yeah. If you're sitting still, it's fine. I've seen it in quite a few webinars. If you're fidgeting, and of course, if you're doing the webinar at night and the concert is worn off, you're going to be fidgeting. And
I did not know that. Oh, that's wow.
Yeah, it's.
Huh.
Go figure. Learning all the time.
So speaking of learning all the time, I asked you earlier if you had any books that that you have read that have kind of helped you in managing of your ADHD.
There's obviously the grandmother, because it was written by women, the grandmother of them all. You mean I'm not lazy, stupid, or crazy?
Yes, and I do know that is available on Audible. So what I'm going to do, we're going to come back with a few more suggestions, but I'm going to take a really, really quick break to thank our sponsor. Trial.com. I don't know what just inspired me to do that. Before I hit record to do this, I had no plan of doing that. But go to audibletrial.com and get your free audiobook download. That's audibletrial.com/ADHD Rewired. One more time. audibletrial.com/ADHD Rewired for your free audiobook download. And we are back with some more fine reading suggestions from Pat.
Let's see. I do also like the book put out by Totally ADD. ADD Stole My Car Keys. I find it's really user-friendly for us because each chapter is like one little page.
Mm-hmm. And lots of the graphical stuff in it.
Yeah. And also it starts out with a statement from someone stating their experience. And then Dr. J and Rick will weigh in on it. And there may even be a little banter from them. So I look at this and think, this is like a script. We should do this as an audiobook. And we've talked about it for a while, but
like lots of great ADHD ideas. We talk about it for a while. We think about it for a long time.
Oh, I mean, Rick and I have written some audio scripts because we want to do like, actually, I thought of calling it Tada, Totally ADD Audio.
Oh, that's great.
Damn, I'm good. But
that works. That works when you hear it. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Do you think it would work though when you see it?
Well, TADDA. Ta-da.
Maybe.
But, we've got the first two scripts written. We've got other scripts that are in progress. It's just a matter of we've got to get together and do them. But, our schedules are getting busier. And how do we match this up? It's tricky. But, it'll be so cool because I think back to all those years ago, sitting in the front row at the radio comedy tapings, Frantic Times taping, thinking, oh, I wish I could be more like those guys up there. And then, surprise, I'm a lot more like one than I thought. And now I'm working with them.
And that's so cool. And I think that, you clearly have found things that you love to do and are doing it. That's kind of working in our green zone, the areas of our strengths. And when we get to go to work and it feels like play, you found the right job.
Yeah.
And that's so important. So, will you play with me a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Hey, I don't know what you're thinking. Come on.
I will warn you. And when I hit the studio and do voice work, I seem to have this really uncanny ability to find the filth, even in like a really innocent little kiddie show script. I did 31 different character voices on the kids show Mighty Machines, which is live action footage of heavy machinery at work. And it's supposedly the voices of the machines explaining what they're doing. And there was one that was about public transit vehicles, and they had me doing the streetcar, and I thought, I'll do it like Bette Midler, clang, 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 I'm a streetcar. And there was one line thing, hey kids, next time you're in town, come and ride me. And what came out over the mic, there was a little bit of a kerfuffle at the director's table, and they said, hang on. I could see that we're rewriting it. Okay, the line is now. I did a group voice workshop with Sunday Muse. She's what's she doing now? She voiced Ella, like the Snow White kind of character on the latest series of Total Drama Island.
Okay.
So she's in like
which I have no familiar.
But I
don't really watch much TV, so a lot of these.
It's cartoons. Come on. But one of the group things that we worked on was a script from the new Care Bears series, and with Wish Bear, and it just came out like a bad porno flick. Not. Who's there? Me Bear.
You bear? You bear?
It just got more and more. She said, okay, it's the kids show we're doing here.
And even though the target audience for this podcast is adults, I do know from many of my listeners that they do listen with their kids. So let's try to keep it as, let's go like Simpsons level, where there's like 2 levels of it depends where you're at and what you receive from it.
Exactly. It's like Christmas Panto too. Christmas Panto in England, there's material in there where the kids will just think, oh, it's silly. The grown-ups will see something more there.
And I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do some accents.
Okay.
So you were telling me about, there's all different kinds of like British English accents, and you were when we talked on Tuesday, you were telling me words that I never heard before that explain like how you extend the words out. Like there was like a dipstick or a
diphthong. Keep it clean, Tivers. Keep it clean.
Okay, so so let's do some BBC, and then I want you to actually coach me, because I like doing accents. So one of the ways that I actually will use accents in my own life, and I've discovered that I have some clients that will also do this. So if I'm trying to read something and my brain's just wandering, I'm having a hard time paying attention, I will then read in an accent. It does something to my brain where now I can actually pay attention. So, yeah. But my accents are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, go ahead.
Like a lot of times you will not have a truly pure accent because you sort of pick things up. I mean, if around the house one parent has an accent, you'll absorb bits of that. Or if you spend extended periods of time in a different place, you'll pick up bits of the accent. I mean, there's a reporter, Lise Doucette, on the BBC, and she also reports for CBC. And, Doucette, that's Quebecois French and Canadian. But like a lot of Canadians who go over to England for an extended period of time, her accent has elements of the Irish in it, like a bit of a lilt kind of a thing. Just a sort of a thing. I've heard it in Rebecca Kane as well, who she studied at Guildhall, in England, this classical music school, and she played Christine Daae in Phantom of the Opera here.
Ooh.
But to hear her talk, she sounds a little bit Irish. This is how the accents go.
Okay, I don't know if I can do an Irish accent. I think mine more
but
between...
which kind of an Irish accent? There's several.
Oh?
Yes, there are several. Just like there's several kinds of Scottish accents. Like, there's Dundee and there's Edinburgh, which are a little easier to understand. But you hear a Glaswegian accent from Glasgow, and it is so hard to understand it. Even if you've got an ear for accents, as I do, it is really hard because it's such a strong accent.
Okay, so here's what I want to do. So we're going to do some kind of shameless promotion as we play with this idea of accents. Okay, so we're going to encourage people to go, leave a review for ADHD Rewired on iTunes, but let's do it in different accents. And so I want you to first maybe give a line about that, to leave a review for ADHD Rewired on iTunes because it helps people find this podcast. But we're going to do it in accents. But I'm gonna try to copy what you do.
Okay. Well, we've even got different Canadian accents. I mean, you probably heard like the total like Bob and Doug McKenzie, eh? So how's it going, eh, you hoser?
I need to hear more.
Okay, so like today on Great White North, our topic is going to be like how to get free beer by like putting a mouse in a bottle, eh?
So we can get free beer? Then that was kind of like Irish. That was bad.
Yeah. Elements of, and remember too, in Canada, we say words like about and house and mouse. We will say them like a boot, moose, house, boot,
a boot, a boot.
Yeah, out and a boot and a boat. There's a moose in the house.
There's a moose in the house.
Yeah.
I need smaller chunks. That's what I need. I can't give the whole sentence. Give me like phrases. So
there's a moose in the house.
Okay, but a mouse in the house. A moose in the house can't review ADHD Rewired.
Oh, now we're getting a little bit of the Irish.
I told you, I blend these weird accents together.
You just have to listen to it over and over. I mean, I listen to so much comedy and such on the BBC's website. You can listen to it for a week after it's first aired. And just listening to it over and over, it just kind of sticks in your head, or phrases will stick in your head. I've even developed a bit of a Pavlov's dog response to some things.
Where you respond like with the accent?
Oh, and I've heard the feed line in comedy. It's the feed line and then the punchline, right?
Okay.
So I'll hear the feed line so many times that when I do hear it again, it's, I just come out with a response. Like, if someone says, hi, I'm, and they give their name, what a memory you have. It throws them, but that's what I hear in here because I've heard the line so many times on the Goon Show. Just
So
Silly
let's
things
let's
like
do an
that.
English accent, encouraging
What sort
people
of English
to
accent?
leave that review on iTunes.
Well, we could do a very posh and proper. This is called RP, or received pronunciation.
Okay, break it
Now,
down
at one
because I like this one. So let me. I don't
All right.
I don't really know how to do this one. So let's do small chunks. So it's
think like the Queen.
think
Or-
like the Queen.
Hearing a little bit of Cockney there. You don't want Cockney. That's very low class.
Very low class.
I'm still hearing it, dear. Think posh. Upper
Posh.
class.
Upper class.
We're getting there.
Wow, it's hard.
You have to think like it. It's like if you're speaking in a different language, you
Yeah.
actually have to be able to think in that language. And in my case, it can be both good and difficult because when I'm working at Stage Door at the theater, sometimes we will have performance troupes from various places. So we had one troupe come in and they were mostly French from Belgium. They speak French in Belgium. Now, I made the mistake of welcoming them in, with a little bit of French because I took it to the end of high school. A little rusty, but speaking to them, welcoming them and in a perfect French accent. Mistake. They thought I was a native speaker. Excusez-moi, je parle un peu de français, seulement un peu, lentement, s'il vous plaît. Merci beaucoup.
Oui,
But you
oui.
just-
I do hope you are speaking French, young man. Otherwise, it's quite offensive, and we are trying to keep it clean, are we not?
I can hold it for another 5 or 10 minutes.
It's it's also about where you place it in the mouth because North Americans, we tend to be usually more back in the chest
Yeah.
and the throat or in the nose. Whereas in England, they tend to be more like you can actually visualize it going up over the roof of your mouth and out through your front teeth. So it tends to be much more clear and forward in the mouth. So you just have to picture
I
it.
have like 3,000 thoughts going through my brain right now.
Now you know what it's like when I'm taking a singing lesson or a voice class, because for me it's really hard because I want to take it all apart and learn all the different aspects of it, but then it's so many different things to think about and put together, and I get stuck in my head. So it's finding that balance between thinking and overthinking, planning and over-planning.
Yeah. And right now I'm overthinking. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to move into the last part of the show, but I'm going to do it in my whatever blend of accents that happens.
Lars Condor Jays is there, my son, my boy, my tribe. This here is Newfoundland from the east coast of Canada. The Rock, as they calls it. The Rock, yeah.
So we're going to move into the last part of this conversation, which I call the random question round. This is the part of the show that has nothing to do with ADHD, which happens to be then paradoxically everything to do with ADHD.
We're getting there.
Okay.
We're getting there.
Are you ready?
I suppose so.
Now I have to come up with a random question.
You do.
Where is the origination of the letter Z?
Oh, gee, that one's hard. Because I do like linguistics and such, but, that's one I've not really looked at. I shall have to read the dictionary that is next to my thinking chair.
And I just discovered this year the letter Z by listening to or watching the YouTube with my 3-year-old son, who likes this YouTube channel that has different songs about the alphabet, and one of the versions of the alphabet uses the letter Z.
Well, actually, I should tell you, Z is correct because it's from England. The letter Z comes from there, and of course, Canada largely follows English pronunciation, English spellings with a U in colour, humour, etc. However, in the States, when I believe it was Webster was doing his dictionary, he wanted to make things simple. And he said, well, you've got B, C, D ending in the E sound when we name the letter, so it should be Z to follow that pattern.
So how come he left in W?
I had no idea. No idea at all on that. But one of the things I do sometimes when I'm performing is I will sing Tom Lehrer's Silent E, which ends with don't add W, don't add X, and don't add Y or Z, just add silent E. But of course, doing it in Canada, don't add W, don't add X, and don't add Y or Z, just add silent Ed.
I don't know if anyone else is amused by this, but this is fun for me. So, okay. I forgot my accent. Where did it go? There it is. Okay. I'm back with my whatever accent this is. Some strange combination is something. And we are back. We did have a brief interruption because a doorbell sometimes can interrupt a Skype feed. Who knew?
Oh, it completely disconnects the phone line, kicks the internet off. I had to restart my ruddy modem. Buggery bollocks.
Okay. Here is our next... I don't know if I can do the accents anymore. All right, so I'll do 2 more questions. Mm-hmm. If you can get a leading role in any movie to replace a current movie, so you'd be the replacement, mm-hmm. What movie would it be?
It's not so much movies. It's, there's some roles I would love to play in musicals.
Okay.
Like, I would love to play Mame. That's M-A-M-E, not M-A-I-M. Although that might make a cool horror movie. Mame! Of course, Dolly Levi and Hello, Dolly.
Okay.
Could probably do Fanny Bryson, Funny Girl.
Now, I do have to say for the listeners, too, that 2 years ago at the ADA conference for the talent show, you did this just remarkable burlesque dance. And,
well, hey, it's not a conference until the stripper hits the stage.
I mean, it was fantastic. It was hilarious. It's
on YouTube.
It
is. Yeah. Kirsten Milliken did record it, so it's on her Play ADHD channel on YouTube.
I will get a link to that and post it in the show notes. You have to see this. It's truly fantastic.
The song is An Elegant Suggestion, and it's written by a fellow who used to be with the folk group Moxie Fruvis. And I hear him sing it at Air Farce TV tapings, because when they're changing the sets for the next sketch, they'll have 2 guys whom they call a ground crew come out. So it's him with his little guitar and another guy with a stand-up bass. And they'll do all kinds of interesting songs. And this was one of them. And, he wrote it. Dave Matheson is his name. And every year I'd go to the tapings and I think, I got to get this song. And finally I commissioned him, and he did a recording of it for me. So it's him playing on the backing track. And the first time I actually did this number was in a burlesque show in Toronto. And it was on my brother's birthday. And my dear brother, who actually introduced me to the burlesque scene, he said to me, and kiddies, cover your ears here, I'm going to say a slightly naughty word. My brother actually said to me, look, I love burlesque, you love burlesque. It's a bit different when it's your sister. I'm bringing friends with me. It's my birthday. Please don't show your tits. Okay. I started planning the number, so I show something else. And when I did, he was videoing it, and you can hear him on the recording, and he just bursts out laughing and says, I'll kill her. But he loved it. But to do it at the conference, I thought, I'm not showing that. I'm going to go for a comedy ending. So I did. And that's how I'm going to do it on the rare occasions when I do it henceforth, because the trouble with the burlesque scene is you're largely doing it for love. You're not really going to get paid. And I work in a live theater, so my nights are usually spoken for. I'd rather be doing that and getting paid than
yes,
the other thing. But doing it for the comedy, that's, for me, it's more important to get a laugh. Way more important.
But it was just this just brilliant blend of truly like our artistic ability and a great vocal. Your vocals were fantastic. Your dance
Thanks.
was great. And then it was just at the end. I don't even want to like share what the end was.
No, don't tell them. Don't tell them.
It'll be on the link
terrific...
on the show notes.
Now, the thing is, that night, like I do get real keyed up anxiety when I have to do any kind of performance. And
I think what it is, I want to do it. I'm prepared to do it. It's going to be fun. I think it's kind of like being the little greyhound dog at the racetrack, and you're in the gate thinking, come on, let's open the gate. I got to race. Let me chase the rabbit. If I can get that energy out. And I remember at that conference, I saw Rick Green do a presentation in the afternoon, and I could see he had the antsiness too at the start of it. And he came up to talk to me, and I said, well, I'm a little nervous about tonight. And he just suddenly, it's like he was out of, I got him out of his head. So he's suddenly calm, and he said, look, nobody is coming to see you bomb. They want you to succeed just as much as you want you to succeed, if not more. Especially if people are paying for a ticket, no one's going to pay $50 for a ticket to watch you screw up. So, just think of it that way. And I remember getting ready for it. I was still antsy, and I did something I've never done before. Number one, the character, who is usually much more refined in Canada, he or she just became very brash. I figured she's like the area supervisor for Tupperware or something. And I worked the room. I just went up to every single table, shaking hands with everyone. Lovely to meet you. I'm Ruby Rosedale. Not even waiting for them to give their name, just each person in the room. And that got the energy out. And then when I got to the table where Jeff Copper and Dr. Charles Parker were, they stood up and actually clicked their heels together and bowed and each kissed my hand. And what did Ruby Rosedale do? What Ruby Rosedale did was tell them, I'm in room 342. I'll leave the key under the mat. If I'm not there when you get there, start without me. Like, I'm making lewd suggestions here.
Oh
Where
my
did
God,
this
it's
come
fantastic.
from? This is not
that is
what I normally do.
inappropriately fantastic. I love it.
It's what Ruby just took over there. And I think the costume, too, which I made, and it's just got so many rhinestones. Like, there's over 3,000 rhinestones just on the shoes.
But, one of the things that I'm thinking about, besides from just that getting into that character, how powerful mindset is. When you put your mind to a certain place and really focus it there, how powerful that can influence our behavior. And that's awesome.
Yeah. And again, just being mindful enough to notice, okay, lots of us performers, we are really antsy. And sometimes it's so bad, some people even take a beta blocker or something to get out of it. But just being mindful enough to say, okay, I think this is what's going on. Now, what can I do to try to change it? Because I'm amazed at how mindful I've always been. Even as a little kid, like if I'd meet someone interesting, it would stick in my mind and I'd wonder, why are they so interesting? Really, really young. I remember when I was 3, there was a guy in our local shopping mall in a home, glass mirrors and stuff store. He could talk just like Donald Duck. And I think I only saw him a couple of times, but he stuck in my mind. And then grade 2 in that crummy school, whenever we'd go on school trips, there'd always be at least 3 or 4 kids who'd get kicked out and have to wait on the bus with some unlucky parent volunteer. This time, we went to the Ontario Science Centre. Not one kid got kicked out. The presenter talking about the giant laser and all that, he was so funny and enthusiastic. He was like a big kid himself, having the time of his life. So quick with the zingers and everything. It was wonderful. And he stuck in my head. And I only saw him once. Only I didn't. He was Rick Green.
Ah, how cool is that? How cool
when your
is
path
that?
crosses that many times with someone else's, you kind of figure
That's a great story.
that's supposed to happen.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to end on that because that's just that's a cool kind of coming full circle.
Can I do my wicked evil telemarketer thing?
We could do us a favor. Do that and then tell people how they could reach you.
Okay. So this is a way to really mess with a telemarketer.
Oh, my mommy can't come to the phone right now because Daddy cut it off her head with a big knife and put it in the freezer. I'm all alone and I'm scared.
You just figured some poor telemark. I've not yet had a chance to unleash this, but I want to. So
the National Telemarketing Association has put you on the do not call list.
Yes. Anyway, if people want to reach me, and after that, heaven knows why, if people want to reach me, there's several ways. I have a bit of a blog. I've just started it, but I've got a whole bunch of other articles that are in progress that I'm going to put on there. So it's patterossebank.blogspot.ca. So that's the blog.
And that link will be on the show notes.
Mm-hmm. For coaching and doing presentations about ADHD, it's, the Canadian A. So it's ehdhdcoaching.ca. Because I'm in Canada, I can use the CA. Or if you're interested in the performing stuff, and I've got clips of my voice work and such, including one that is very dark and disturbing, so do not listen to it alone late at night, really. That performing website is patterossebank.com.
Well, that's fantastic. And I know that there are a number of podcasters who actually listen to my podcast who are often looking for kind of promotional voice work. So, give Pat a call. Look her up online because she's a lot of fun to work with. So, Pat, thank you so much for being a guest on ADHD Rewired. Now, will you go listen to one of my episodes? Because you came out of the closet and told me that you have not listened to one of these episodes. And I was like, what?
I keep meaning to. I schedule it, and then it's like, oh my God, I've just got all this transcription work that fell in my lap. Or, oh, jeepers, the theater just called. They're short an usher, and it's a full house. Cavalry riding to the rescue, last minute shift. It's my own stupid fault. I live 2 blocks away from the theater.
Oh, I think it's a wonderful thing. I live 3 minutes from work and I love it.
I know. It's terrific, except when there's like 6:30 a.m. shifts. Last week, we just had a 5:30 a.m. shift, and guess who got it? It's like, melatonin, timers.
All right, guys. Well, we don't want to miss our turn because, with ADHD, sometimes we just keep on going. So I'm going to put on the brakes there. Pat, thank you so much. We will see you in the ADHD Rewired Facebook community because you are a member in there. And thanks again.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Well, ADHD Rewired community, as always, I do want to thank you for listening. And this week, I have a couple thank yous for those who have left reviews in iTunes. There were a couple really nice reviews. I'm going to leave some abridged, I'm going to read some abridged versions of these because the ones I want to read were a little long. So Timoth5579, who I know is a member of the ADHD Rewired Facebook community, says, Eric is a fine and gentle soul, and I'd like everyone to know that he has taken a kind and supportive role in my life. I'll never be able to thank him enough for all the inspirational good moods he draws me to. What I love most is that he doesn't boast and politely roasts. He sees through my blunders to my true intentions and guides me to a better way to communicate. Thank you for generously contributing to our community to help us and make others peek through our hidden ADHD identity. Well, thank you for that one. And the other one is from Nurse, I don't know how to pronounce that, N-U-R-S-E-Z-A, says, no place right like home. And I'm going to abbreviate this one. Every Monday, I look forward to listening to Eric Tivers on his Rewired podcast. The content is always engaging. I've learned a lot about myself. I've picked up many great strategies that make life easier for me. The most important thing is that I feel at home while listening. Knowing I'm not alone in my challenges with ADHD, Eric is so genuine and his ability to be real is refreshing. They say that by leading by example is the most effective way to lead. Eric is a great example as he demonstrates perseverance and commitment to results on each podcast. She continues to watch me grow and the show improve as it has progressed. She gets value every time. It's fun being part of all of it. I look forward to more Monday mornings with Rewired podcasts. Keep them coming. Well, thank you for your reviews. And if you want to leave a review and want me to read it on an upcoming episode of ADHD Rewired, just take a screenshot and send me an email or message me on Facebook. You can email me through my website at erictivers.com. Do you have a story to share about your ADHD? If you want to be a guest on ADHD Rewired, go to ADHDrewired.com, click on the podcast icon. Then you'll see a bar that says Be a Guest. I know I just gave you a couple steps, but it's kind of intuitive. Go to ADHD Rewired and just follow the podcast. Are you looking for a coach? Schedule a free 20-minute consultation with me. It's really easy using my online scheduling system. If you go to erictivers.com, there's a link that says Request an Appointment. The first option there is to schedule a free 20-minute consultation with me. If I'm available, it'll show up on my calendar, and I will look forward to speaking with you. You know, we are on Facebook, and please like our Facebook page, but also request to join our free community. I will respond to you as quickly as I can. It will take anywhere between a couple days to about a week to get a reply from me, and check your other inbox because I will reply to you before allowing you in. The 2014 CHAD Conference is just 2 weeks away, November 13th through the 15th in the Chicago area. Go to chad.org to register. That's CHADD.org. And if you are listening after this conference, past conference sessions are available for download in the CHAD online store. And no, I'm not an affiliate, but I'm a big supporter of CHAD. It's personal accountability time for me. Over the past several weeks, I've been sharing with you my progress about a personal goal that I have been working on, and I'm thrilled to announce that I am continuing to make progress. As I am looking right now at my Scooby-Doo star chart, yes, I have a Scooby-Doo star chart, I am making progress, and the goal that I am working on is to get home earlier a few nights a week so I can spend more time with my family. I am recording this on Wednesday, October 29th. Last week, I did meet my goal to be home twice, and this week I am on track to do it again. So far, I was home once this week on time. Yesterday, I was in a meeting, so I couldn't have been home at an earlier time, and I know even if I don't get home this evening, which I plan to, I will be home for Halloween. So I am excited to say that I'm continuing to make progress, and my sleep has been improving, and that's been a huge issue for me. And I would say over the last month, since I've been tracking this goal, my sleep has been better than it has been in the last 210 days, which is how long I've been tracking my sleep using an app called Sleep Cycle. To the members of the ADHD Rewired online coaching group, and to everyone else, what will you do next time you go through your dip? We all go through them. Creating a setback action plan can be really important. One of the best ways to do this is to record the lessons learned at the end of your next dip. One of our big goals in managing our ADHD is to decrease inconsistency, but have a plan when you do take that next step back when you feel stuck. Add your lessons learned to your monthly and quarterly plans in a way to review the lessons that you've learned. And remember, when you feel like you've taken so many steps back that you'll never be able to catch back up, remember this: feelings are not facts, and that the first step forward will always seem the hardest. Narrow your focus to the first step. Once you've done that, focus on the next step. And before you know it, you will find yourself 2 steps ahead of your first step back. Also, as a friendly reminder, it's November 3rd. Have you planned your goals for November yet? If not, make an appointment with yourself and schedule it, because spending time to plan now will save you time that you could spend later. This is Eric Tivers. Thank you for listening to ADHD Rewired. Until next time.